It took us a while to pull this meeting together. We had trouble locating a speaker. Then once we located our speaker, we had trouble locating a venue. But we managed to pull it all together, like I said, with help with Stan. And we're very happy to have Mike Gardner here from Spell Bee Company in Georgia. He's a very large package bee provider. A lot of you have probably started your beekeeping with his bees. Walt Wilson brings them up, Stan brings them up. And so we're very fortunate to have Mike here today. Now, I've promised Mike that he's not used to speaking in front of 100 or more people. So I've promised Mike that we will all be very nice. Despite the fact that we're all from New Jersey, we will be on our best behavior. Mike, you want to come on up?
I am Mike Gardner. I own and operate Spell Bee Company in Baxley, Georgia. We produce package bees and queens. I'm not used to this. I do not speak at meetings. If Stan wouldn't have convinced me to do it, I would have never have done it. So forgive me for stammering and being a little nervous.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
This is the entrance of our company. We're in Baxley. We're the largest beekeeper east of the Mississippi, largest package producer. Our town is known for lumber, cotton. It used to be the world's largest producer of turpentine. It wasn't impressive to me. I never used turpentine for anything, but we tend to raise a lot of queens, a lot of different breeds. We search and search for wild and extraordinary queens that people say they have. We breed them specifically for wintering, overwintering. I'm originally from Michigan. I started out with one colony like everyone else. I quickly found out that this was my love of my life, other than my wife. It has always kept me interested. The old breeds, the Carneolans, it was a very old breed, the Midnight Starlines. A lot of the breeds are gone in the wayside, and that's one of the reasons we collect wild queens. We've got a Facebook page we're trying to keep up with what goes on is a year. So if you go on Facebook, or if you do go on Facebook, like us, and then you can see the process over the year. This is one of the ladies that work for me. We've got, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 ladies that work for us. We're dipping cell cups, putting them on sticks for raising queens. She paints the stick with wax. We use wax and paraffin wax to keep the wax worms down. We have to store, around 100,000 of these sticks during the wax worm time. We have a pinworm and a wax worm. We have 13 cups per cell, per frame, per bar. That's what it looks like. The reason we dip our own cell cups, a lot of people use commercial cell cups, fiberglass, plastic, even beeswax ones that are done on machine, is over the years we've found out that if you self-dip natural wax with no preservatives, no art, nothing in them, and we do have ours tested for chemicals. If we get the right kind of wax, the queens accept better, the eggs do, in the cells. Every little step you can do along the way of processing a queen, which will ensure a good, healthy queen, is just a bonus. And these girls work hard. This is monotonous work. We used to have the guys do it. The guys tend to do half the work as of a lady. Literally. And our ladies are paid very well. We are on equal pay scale. the ladies, they get certain jobs done, they get bonuses along the way, it's the incentives. After we get our cell cups on, what we do is we'll graft a few eggs into some cells and we start harvesting jelly. We harvest our own jelly. We don't believe in buying anybody else's or from overseas. I know there's a lot of producers of royal jelly. This way we have a better control of what quality of royal jelly. It's so important to our business to control the quality. We put them in medicine bottles. We buy medicine bottles and put them in there. Mix it with a little bit of sugar water to dilute it. It's just a starter. These are cell cups that are all prepared to receive a larva. This is a grafting board. They're picking up a 3-day egg. An egg will hatch in 3 days. We do ours by the hour. You figure a bee is raised in 15 days. You've got just a matter of an hour or two if you don't pick them out at the right time. They do not produce into good queens. They don't mate properly. Over 15 years of raising queens, we found a lot of problems with the old style. We've all there's a politically correct insignia on that. We found a lot of problems with the old way of raising queens. The old saying was a southern queen is no good for the north, and that was true years ago. I raised northern queens for 25 years before I bought this company in Baxley. I know what a commercial beekeeper looking for, and I know what a hobbyist is looking for. You want gentle bees for the hobbyist, and you want a queen that'll produce high populations and lots of honey with low usage in the winter for commercial. It took a lot to turn this around. Whoops. Just another picture of an egg on a needle. We call them eggs, they're actually larvae. These frames are specially made. We have, they hold 3 bars on each one. We put them in a starter hive, which is a queenless hive. These hives we have to dump baby bees in every 3 days. As most of you know, some of you don't know, the baby bees are the only ones that produce a good amount of royal jelly. We put them on starter hives overnight. The next day we'll know which ones took, which ones we damaged, and we can cull the bad from the good. Very, very bad picture of queen cells as far as saying, hey, our queens are real good, because it isn't a pretty picture, but this is realistic. This is what it really looks like. I didn't want a picture on there of the perfect cell on the perfect stick, because that's not real. Out of all of these cells, there may be, I can see 40 or 50 of them. I know this thing has a laser on it, but I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do it?
You're okay.
Cells such as these that are skint on the top, those are bad. We'll cull all of those out. It's not that the queen will not develop, it's not that the queen is that bad, it's just that there's a reason the bees will open them up prior to their total incubation time, and if there's a problem with the bees not liking it, then there's a problem with us not liking it. You know, we cull and cull and cull. There's a little fat man from Georgia looking at the cells before we put them in the mating nooks. Again, realistic cells. This is what they look like when they're on a honey flow in early spring. I'm opening a cell there, checking, making sure that they're of the right age. Our mating yards. 2-sided, 2 frames, little feeder. We put a cell in, and we have found out in the last 4 years that what everybody does in the South is they'll put a queen in, they'll let it mate. Within 15 days, they'll pull her out, and she's done. They'll ship her off, good, bad, or indifferent. We're finding that if we leave them 25 plus days, that the bees themselves will cull a bad queen out. So we're ending up with, instead of a 3% bad, we had less than 1% this year. We had a 0.5% or less of replacement queens where we had to replace them. The bees tend to know more about this than we do. We're still learning daily. One of our customers there in the queen yard, he's the man, Don, that set up this PowerPoint for me. Since I never did this, he was coaching me along also. But our guys don't wear hats. Most of them don't wear hats and veils. The ones that do are the newbies. We'll take a rookie, anybody, and we'll set them on a stool and say, this is how it's done. And we'll watch them for about 3 weeks. And then we'll turn them loose. And they're the ones that'll wear a veil. Can we move this forward? I can't see. No, I'm kidding you. Oh, anyways, this is our mating yards. We'll have 500 boxes. That'll be a possibility of 1,000 queens. If we produce 900 to 950, we're tickled. On average, we have about 800, 850 marketable queens that mated properly, good patterns. When the guys pull the queens out here too, we do inspect. We make sure the queen has all her legs and she looks right, she acts right. The brood pattern's good. It's consistently, young on the inside and older on the outside. At 25 days, they've had a couple of brood cycles go through. We do a lot of things by hand. We don't do a lot of plastic. We make the cages, putting candy in there. We make candy, powdered sugar, and corn syrup. There's Miss Heather. I told her one day she will be able to make cages as fast as I do, and within 3 months she does almost double, so we'll just leave her there. Miss Cindy doing hers. Putting screens on. It's warm in March in Georgia. That's David Ray. He's about a 10-year beekeeper. He's not too afraid of too many bees, but he tends to like to run around half naked. Some more of the guys. I don't know why I particularly picked that picture. The one man with the package sitting next to him, if we find a queen that's bad, that hasn't laid, the bees have killed her, she didn't hatch. There's a lot of reasons things can go wrong. We put more bees in and we'll put a new cell in right away. Makes it easier to do it immediately instead of going back and trying to figure out what ones they need what. Putting the queen into the cage. 3 to 5 workers. Package bees tend to get 3 if we think about it. If not, they get 5 and they all are the same. We have about 500 boxes, 1,000 queens. We have 31 yards, so we have a possibility of 31,000 queens every 15 days, caging. I have 1 or 2 people helping me. I don't do it all. Actually, they don't even let me out in the woods too much anymore. I can only go out there and take pictures. They said I'm too old. Imagine. I still sign their checks and they don't understand that. Marking a queen. Not real good pictures, but it's as good as we got. Of course, in American Bee Journal, I believe they have a list of what years or what colors, and we will custom color. For some people, it's hard, like me, it's hard to see some of the colors. I don't do red or blue. On my colonies, I have all yellow. Some queens and cages for marketing. Had to get Steve in there. We went through 15 UPS drivers until we found one that would work with the bees. Real interesting how you can run a UPS driver from one side of the truck to the other, just handing them a box with no bees, nothing on the outside, just bees on the inside. They tried to transfer him several times, but he's back with us. Of course, he doesn't look real happy, but he is. Okay, that's for the queens. Since I haven't done this before, I don't know. I've always been on that end of the table, and when I was starting out, I had more questions and could be answered. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me about the queen rearing.
As the Africanized bees have moved forward, how do you keep those genetics out of your...
Well, at this point, we don't have a problem with Africanized bees. They're not, I shouldn't say they're not there. They're not there for long. The Africanized bees are in Central Florida. They're established in Central Florida. Migratory guys will bring them up. I was migratory at one time. I'm at fault too. When we do find them, we depopulate the hive. We'll plug it off and we'll gas it. We haven't had any of the genetics into our queens. We've had them tested and tested and tested. We're doing the best that anybody can do. Overpopulation of European drones and a multitude of different genetic strains of European drones has been our answer for right now. That's not saying it isn't going to change tomorrow, because they will teach us something new.
I noticed that your queen yard is in a wooded area. Is there a special reason for that?
Pardon me? Could you?
Your queen, where you raise your queens, is in a wooded area as opposed to an open area. Is there a reason for that?
105, 110 degrees, yeah. They will tend to mate better in a light wooded area. Some of them are in actual tree farms. In fact, that's where a lot of them are. We like some shade in some parts of the day. It's got to be, the canopy has got to be relatively thin for them to mate, because they typically go above the tree level to mate. But it's just where we can find a yard. You know, there's a multitude of things that go into it, but it's just because that's the easiest yards to get.
When you guys start caging queens, how long does it take for the guys to get their touchbacks from the last season?
How long does it take to get their touch back? The senior guys, the guys that's done it for 5 or more years that are just now starting to learn how to do it, they pretty much know what they're doing. It's the new guys that actually do the best job because they're too afraid of damaging her. The older the guy is and the more he's done it, the more he tends to be rough on them. So it's not a matter of getting the touch back, it's just, readjusting yourself that these things are not BBs. You can't just sling them around. You have to be very, very careful.
How do you influence your drones for your mating yards?
Pardon me?
How big of a span do you have to influence the drone population, or do you not concern yourself about that?
Oh, no, we have a support yard. That's one of the pictures that is missing out of here. On each mating yard, we have a support yard of 50 to 55 colonies just for mating, for drones. We also introduced drone brood in there, and we have an ample population. If we don't see 5 to 10 drones in each queen nuke, each side, we feel we're underpopulated with drones. We want to have to feed them queen boxes every 3 to 5 days because they're using up that much honey because of so many drones just eating.
Let's say for every 100 eggs or larvae that you graft, what is your typical acceptance rate from that point to the point where they're shipping to customers?
From grafting, if we grafted 100 eggs, we have about a 98 acceptance. But to the marketable queen, you have about an 85.
What percentage of queens do you produce go into packages versus being sold as individuals?
I'm sorry?
What percentage of queens that you produce go into packages versus being sold individually as queens?
Well, we sell about 50,000 packages of bees a year with queens, and we produce about 235,000 queens. If there's nothing else, we'll go on. Stan? Pardon me?
What is the radius of your yard, or the most close that you go out?
45 minutes, one way.
One way. One way.
One way.
And then what happens when your vehicles get stuck? I know you were there, and you left it real quick, but you have to go get a truck with your big rig, get out of the swamp. You can tell them stories.
Yeah, we get stuck quite often. Our yards are, up to 45 minutes away. In the spring, we get a lot of rain. The ground is real grainy. It's soft. The guys call me and they say, we're stuck again. Some days, that's all I do is just go and pull people out. And we still produce what we need to.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, Jim was talking about mice a minute ago. I was wondering, how do y'all control your mites? Your mites?
How do you control your mites?
How do we control our mites?
Yeah.
We have a mite team that goes out and picks everyone off and smushes. Mites are a problem, especially in a queen operation. The mites tend to become super mites because of all the royal jelly they get on the queens, the queen larvae and stuff like that when I first bought the place. Now, I'm a little bit pro-aggressive to mites because I feel that mites are probably the first factor in the downfall of a colony and or queens. If we do an ether roll and we have one mite on the glass, we quarantine that yard and we'll treat it 3 times to make sure it's clean. Our operation can't stand to have mites. Not that we don't have them, but any place you have queens, you've got to get rid of the mites. Is that it? I don't want to skip anybody. Packages, 50,000 of them a year. That's from March 15th to May 15th. So my guys are busy. Typical bee yard. This is a long single row. We like them in horseshoes where we can back the trucks into them and everything's a little closer. This one, the poor guy that's running the packages is tired by the time he gets out of here. We typically have 3 people setting out. That'll be the guys that are responsible for finding the queen, setting back the proper amount of bees in the hive to keep it alive and healthy, and then we shake the excess bees. We have typically 2 shakers to keep up. In one crater, the crater is the guy that'll put them on the truck, straighten them out, make sure there's plenty of air vents going through so that they don't get too hot. Big Anthony and a little skinny 95-pound guy, it don't matter. They all work. Bee yard in a tree forest. These are improved loblolly trees. They raise them for your treated lumber. They're not much good for anything else besides paper. Typical in our bee yard is a bottom hive body and a honey super. We don't go any bigger than that. It's just not by design, but it's harder for us to handle. Anything that's a double story like the first one is for making cuts or making up skips in the yard after a dead out. We do occasionally get that Japanese wasp that will sit at the doorway and eat our bees. We hunt them down pretty good too. Early morning. Just pictures of the bee yards. We use 8-frame and 10-frame equipment. We find that the 8-frame equipment early spring is better. They build up quicker. It's more natural, we feel. Typically, that's what we leave back after we strip everything out. We'll shake from 1 to 4 packages out of every colony. We try to leave back 3 pounds of bees. 3 pounds of bees in early spring in South Georgia usually keep the brood warm enough and fed up to be fine. 15 days we can go back and do it again. bad picture, but you can, most of you might be able to see the queen. Funny, I couldn't see it straight on, but I can see it from this angle. Not a bad situation here. Looking for a queen. If you can't find one, we set a red top on them that goes on the packages. We'll search through, we'll find a queen. If we don't find a queen after the second set through, we'll shake them onto an inner cover on the inside of the cover and look for the queen. Most of the times we'll find her, sometimes we won't. Sometimes y'all get a bonus and get a free queen. We don't have time. I allocate the guys about 45 minutes per yard to go through and shake the bees and be back on the road. We typically don't have a lot of time to look for the queen. If we don't find her, it could be because she's a dark one, could be because she's rusty or just runs and hides. We'll just shake the hive, leave back the right amount, and put a new queen in it. We have an availability of queens that we can use, so we use them. Shaking them in the funnel to get them into your packages. Oops. That's the assistant general manager showing me that the bees are plugging up with honey. We have a honey flow in the early spring with the bees. It's called tie-tie. We love it and we hate it. In a good year, it'll plug up a hive and we can't produce any bees. The honey flow is so hot that they'll actually ball the queen and kill every one of the queens. So we don't like them on tie-tie bays, but it's a good honey flow when things are tough. We have to feed our bees every 3 to 5 days in the early spring. That relates to a tanker load of syrup at our place every 3 days. So we go through a few tanker loads. Once the queen boxes are made up, we have to feed those, I forgot to mention, we have to feed those every 3 days for 4 feedings. And at that time, we're getting about 2 tanker loads every day. So we go through a few tankers of syrup. Whoever was setting out this yard did a poor job. They're still searching for queens. They're still in that same yard, I think. Not 1 or 2, 9 or 12. It's all about being efficient. Once we get the bees into the crates, we bring them back and we feed them out. The red tops there are actually pipe covers. They fit the hole perfectly, so we use those. They used to nail little covers on. I wanted a more efficient way to do it. We first started with masonite covers, 2 guys sitting in a shop pounding nails by hand. Well, then we went to a softer cover instead of a hardboard. And we used air staplers. Well, that wasn't fast enough for my kind of production. These guys in the south thought it was great, but so we went to the pipe covers for the threads, and that's a whole lot easier. Just slap it in and slap it out. The queens are tabbed over there with the yellow tabs. We tab those. Miss April and Miss Quinda sit in the office all winter and cut 50,000 tabs every year. Do I need to get that? Just another picture of them feeding them out. Typically, we produce about 1,000 plus packages a day. They can feed those out when things are going right, about 3.5 hours, Stan? About 3.5 hours. Five people, 3.5 hours. Blurry picture, but that's the queens tabbed on the queen cages you've seen earlier. Just stack them up close to the table. The closer you can get them, the faster you can move. We make it into a challenge, a game. The guys, the last competition we had, they said they were going to outwork me and the old guys, and there's several of us. And so after we put the new guys to shame, they had to buy us lunch. And we make it a game. This kind of work is so hard. You almost have to make it fun. The guys know their business. That's about a half a day's work. That's Stan's order right there. We try to keep them in stacks of 10, easy to count. Well, from here, those look real crooked, and those are supposed to be a pretty picture. Loading trucks, we have a stadium cooler. Tends to work better than air conditioners. We had 10 tons of air conditioning in the shop, and that wasn't enough, so we put 10 more tons, and that wasn't enough. So we got rid of the air conditioners, went with a stadium cooler. The bees are healthier. They don't drop as quick. We found out that the dry air is real bad on bees. Found that out after losing about 500 packages on the floor. It was a rough day. Load the trucks. Typically we can load a truck in half an hour, 45 minutes. Little amount of stress on the bees as possible. We try to handle them very carefully. Don on the left is the Holland area beekeeper president in Michigan. After I resigned, I told him he needed to be it. He was a secretary under me for 12 years. He's still excited. Half a truck of bees. Okay, packages. Any questions on packages?
You said you shake them every 15 days. How many times can you shake a colony in the season?
Say that again?
You said once you shake 4 packages out of a colony, then 15 days later you can shake them again.
Yes, sir.
How many times do you do that over the course of your package season?
Typically, we shake them 3 times.
Okay.
We have been known to shake them 5 times. Del Monte called us with an emergency order. They needed 5,000 extra packages. We had to shake some extra. Typically, when you shake your packages out, your first shake is usually your best one. You can get 4 or 5 packages. They overwintered well. They built up real well. They usually have what we call beards, and the bees hanging out the front. They'll hang. Our benches are 18 inches off the ground, and they'll be on the ground and running like water. We'll shake 4 to 5 packages, 15 days. All of that sealed brood that is in the hive at that time will have hatched and matured, and we can go get them. And then typically we get 3 to 4 packages, and on the 3rd shake you get 2. If you have to go more than that, it's usually 1 for 1.
How rare is it that you get these Japanese wasps?
Pardon me? How
often do you see them?
We've seen them twice. We've seen 2 of them. We chased down the hive and we killed the hive. It's one of them things that's going to happen. They brought them over. They're there. What they'll do is I don't know if you've seen a video on them, but they'll sit there in front of the hive and they'll just be killing them. I mean, 2 or 3 of them. And what we'll do is my guys will catch them and we'll tie string to their legs so they can barely fly. And they'll fly a ways and we'll run after them because they typically don't go more than 200 or 300 yards to look for food. So, and when we find them, we got some really good chemicals for them. Ma'am?
Do you see a change in the aggressive behavior between the first shake and the last shake?
Aggressive behavior? I wouldn't say we see a big difference in the aggressiveness between the shakes. The weather more plays a factor in how aggressive they are. Usually by the time we're shaking the last round, the guys can actually do it with just a veil and not a suit. The old bees are the ones that are the protectors, and we get them the first shake. And those are the ones we build our queen boxes with. So you all don't get them, we get them. I see. Ma'am? The time frame? Hours. We'll shake them in the morning and we'll load them up in the afternoon. Yeah. Yeah. Once they're already disoriented, you got to give them about an hour or two to realize they're queenless. You introduce the queen in that way so they don't kill the queen in the cage so often, and then they're on the truck or trailer. Pardon me? There's no rhyme or reason or how, there's no figures for it. I keep track of everything. I can trace back to the front. If you have a bad queen and you complain and Stan calls me and says, hey, I got some people with bad queens, I ask them what load. I can go back from the load to the queen yard. I can go from the queen yard to the breeder, to the starters, to the very, very beginning. I can figure out what is bad, if it is our queens or something that happened in the packaging, in the caging. I haven't got it down to each guy. I haven't got a stamp yet I can put on their little cages, but we keep track of everything. There's no real rhyme or reason why they'll kill one here or there. Sometimes they do,
So do you make all of your own footwear, cages?
Pardon me?
Do you make all the cages yourself?
The package cages? No, we don't make them, we buy them. We're putting up a wood shop now so we can start making our own. Have 50,000 cages, we're paying retail to buy them, and we can wholesale and make 2 years worth for the same, so we'll be making our own, but no, we buy them from a man that makes them commercially. So.
Is there a problem mixing bees of different types?
No, sir. None whatsoever. I've heard a few people say that if you mix one bee from one hive to another, that you end up with a bad package. They're already disoriented. By the time they get oriented to what's happened to them, they're queenless. They start clustering together. They're not really concerned with each other. They're concerned with finding a queen, or going back home. So we don't have there's not really, you can leave a package queenless on the floor, and there won't be 10 dead bees in it, and those are mostly damaged bees from when you shake them, you pinch them, and smash them. But no, mixing the bees does not seem to matter at all.
What are you doing with your colony between June and February when you're no longer making queens?
From June to February, we have a honey season down there. It's not a real good one, but after the package season, we do get honey off of cotton and peanuts and soybean and wildflower, and we do have a little bit of fall flow, but we collect the honey. That's the next step. Same as everybody else. Collect honey, treat for mites, inspect. Actually, from June on, we start selecting for next year's breeders and queens. 2 years ago, we got some bees out of the UP, sent a couple guys up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Actually, in Sault Ste. Marie, a city tree they cut down had bees in it for 10, 15 years, and so we brought that back down. We're preparing for the next year. We're collecting honey. This year, we got 700 drums of honey. We're busy, and this time of year, we're closed down the queen operation. We finished the honey, and now we're repairing equipment. We bring in every one of the queen nooks, all 31,000 of them. We clean them, repair them, or replace them, paint them. We're building new equipment.
What are some of the factors that can contribute to the fact that Stan and Walt Wilson get a notice that, send out a notice that the package pickup has been delayed? One of the things that I think a lot of new beekeepers don't understand is that this is a tenuous process, and that the dates, the delivery and pickup dates are tentative.
Tentative, and that is it.
What are some of the factors
Well, there's a ton of factors that can change a pickup date, all the way from when we're putting the cell cups on through. We schedule ourselves for 35 days of making up queen boxes, providing there's no rain. That doesn't put us behind, providing we don't find any mites, providing the bees are there. If it's been a cold, extra cold winter. We've had snow in Baxley, Georgia, and they freaked out. They seen snowflakes, and you could not find milk, eggs, or cheese in a doggone store for anything. But there's factor after factor after factor, and we are weather related, no different than any other farmer. Our biggest drawback is heavy rains, light mist, fog. It does not bother us. But when we're getting the bees, if it's raining hard, or it's been a real cold spring, we'll delay the pickup dates. We've only done that twice in 15 years, and we're one of the few that do that. But my guys go out and if they go out and work in the rain, the light rain, and get the packages, we usually buy them dinner. So our guys tend to be less likely to say, it's raining too hard, we can't get them. You know, they'll say, let's go get them, we get lunch. You know, I always have an incentive behind everything. I've been a little bit of a different operator down there than what is typically in the South. They just say, oh, it's misting, we can't get the bees, we're done. It's a stressful time of year. You got queens to get, you got packages to get, you got employees that are balking because they're tired 7 days a week, 14 hours days minimum. It's, there's a lot of factors that can change. We've not had the employee problem with delays, so. Ma'am? All right, catching the big wasps, all they do is they pin them down. And once you pin them down, they pin them down, they just grab them and push them down. Yes. I'm not going to say my guys are crazy, but we're close. You hold them down and you just tie a piece of string to it. You have help. I wouldn't do it alone. Those things hurt when they sting you. They hurt. And the varroa mite, we're already treating for next year. We're inspecting and treating now.
So what do you treat with and how soon before you shake the bees?
Oh, we
If I get your package, do I need to treat it when I put it on?
When you get our packages have been treated within 15 days of when you got them. Now, you will need to treat them because there's no cure for the varroa mite. Even though we can't find them on rolls, you're going to get them. And we don't charge extra for those. Those are free. But we treat with the strips, and we also treat with other chemicals that I would rather not say. But we do treat inside the hive, but we do not treat on the hive. We treat so that there's no... See, we use our own wax to make our cell cups. And again, you got to watch for your chemical levels in your wax. If we have parts per billion, I'm starting to worry already because I want 0. Last year they went through and they tested all of our pollen and all of our wax for chemical to see what kind of illegal chemicals we were using. Now the state, leans to a blind eye with whatever we do as long as we're below the threshold. Well, we were the lowest in the state with the way we do it because I don't believe in, impregnating the wax with any kind of chemical because we need our wax to rear our queens, and it's just a vicious cycle. If you start poisoning your own wax, you're going to have problems all along. So
do you alternate your treatments?
Oh, yes.
Talk more about finding the wild queens. I know you were talking about going to Michigan to get queens. Do you have people that are constantly on the lookout for them? And then is it only the states, or do you go abroad to get diversified queen population?
Well, the way the law reads right now, we can't go abroad. but we go all over. We've gotten bees, queens out of Virginia and West Virginia, Ohio, Michigan. Because I'm from Michigan, so I have a few more people up there looking for me. But I mean, we've paid people to bring them in. North and South Carolina has brought us a lot of them. But we just get whatever wild ones we can, and then we'll start testing them out for, what kind of resistance are they? Are they hygienic? We've got a ton of queen breeders that buy their breeders from us and their cells and their queens, and they just remarket them as another. We're doing a good enough job that they're saying, hey, these look like Russians, I'm going to sell them as Russians, and happens.
What are the problems that beekeepers are doing with your packages that you get called upon that frustrate you?
Let's say that one more time. Make sure I don't.
You must get phone calls from people who buy your packages with problems that they have that are self-inflicted.
Yeah.
You know it. So what are the problems you're hearing from beekeepers that if you could only tell an audience, this is some things you would say
Wow.
they should do differently?
That's a whole nother subject.
It is.
Probably the first thing I would say is feed, 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 feed. When you put a package in, those guys, everything that we do at the shop, everything we do for their transportation barely maintains life. I mean, it's enough food to get them here and get them here healthy, but they're hungry. You need to feed, feed, feed. And when you think you've fed enough, if they're still taking syrup, they need more food. And the second thing, probably they're in them. I mean, and Lord, I was a hobbyist. I killed my first bees. My first bees came from Sears and Roebuck. And they came from Harvey York down in Jessup, Georgia. And I was in that thing every 4 hours. I'm not kidding you. I killed that queen. I called him and I told him what happened, and he was mad at me, and I had to pay him a whole $1.25 to get a new queen. But people I tended to want to be in them. I wanted to see what was going on. I was so interested. I loved to look at what they were doing. And then there you are. You have a rolled queen, a pinched queen. You disturb her too much and bees are going to ball her and kill her. She's going to fail. They're going to supersede her. And feed and stay out of them. Don't buy one package. And then this ain't a sales pitch, but buy 2 or 3 so you alternate which ones you harass all the time.
I think one of the other things that I've seen is people pick up their package and, they're kind of, some people don't understand that as soon as you get the call from Stan or Walt or whoever you put the package from, that right then you have to go pick them up as fast as you can go pick them up. And then I hear people, I got to work tomorrow, and I'll get to it on the weekend. That's been my experience. People that don't understand, or it's raining out. I've installed these in the mist and the rain and everything else because as soon as I get them, I want them in the hive. Is that another problem? People wait too long to install
Well, that's leisurely beekeeping. You got to understand that these little critters need a place and a purpose. So the faster you can get them in, the better results you're going to have. If you wait a week, and when we've had them call us and say, your bees are no good. I just picked them up from so and so, and I'm going, and I see 1,000 people a year or more, and I'm going, I don't remember him being here in the last day or two. I'll go back and it's been 10 days. Well, there's an inch of dead bees on the bottom. There should be an inch of dead bees on the bottom. It's very, very important to get them in with the least amount of stress and get them fed. Just as fast as, and I know Stan don't like to hang on to them for a week. It reflects on him, but it really is, it really is important to get them in immediately.
We hear people who complain, sorry. We hear people who complain about shaking the packages in. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, there's 200 different ways to install packages. I don't believe in shaking them in unless it's raining. Then that way the bees won't get you as bad. No. A lot of thoughts on that. I preach removing 3-4 frames and setting a package in and letting them walk out, personally. When I was putting in 1,000 packages a year when I was a commercial pollinator, I shook them in. I didn't have the time to go back. It all worked. It worked well. I had better results with bees staying in the hive. I put them in when I just dropped the package in and let them walk out. When you shake them, that's stress. They get excited. Some of them get mad because they're banged around too hard. They're going to fly. They're going to drift more. Did I answer the question?
This year was a pretty interesting year here because when we received the package, I think it was around 27 degrees, 28 degrees. I'm curious to see things is that what is the temperature that you experience with the package, when you package these and put them in ship? And do you have any suggestions when the temperature, we just had cold, early April, the recommendations?
All right. When you have to put them in when it's cold, the one thing you got to remember is that queen is very, very fragile. So you don't want to put her in the hive when you introduce the bees. You're going to want to keep her in your pocket or someplace else warm until the bees have time to establish themselves into a cluster in a certain place of the hive where they can keep it warm, and then you introduce her. If you introduce that queen before the temperature or before they're established in one central location, she will chill and she will fail, and they will supersede her. So I've put them in Michigan in the snow in March. Not lost a one. But every one of my queens, and this is when I was a commercial pollinator, and I would buy from 500 to 1,000 packages a year and install them early. If you put the bees in and give them time to warm the colony up, or the box, give them time to warm it up, then go back and set the queen in on the warm frames, in between the warm frames or on top, however you prefer. You'll have less supersedure, less queen failure, you'll have better success. I don't have a problem with ice cold weather unless it's on foundation. Then it's another story. I don't think I got to your first question. That's good?
You should give time, like 3 or 4 hours.
Sir?
You should give the bees time to warm the box up. Talking about another matter of hours.
It can be hours, it can be minutes. You have to determine that on your own. If I give you a time frame, you're going to hold me to it. When I was putting my bees in Michigan, and quite often in March we have a snowstorm, a late snowstorm. I would put the bees in, I'd pull the frames out, set them outside, I didn't care if they got snow or whatever. Put the box in, I gave them time to come out. If I went back as I was putting the queens in and they hadn't got enough of them over into the frames and warmed up and started uncapping honey, I wouldn't put the queen in. I would wait, sometimes till the next day. You know, that's a judgment call. You know, me personally, I never did it until they clustered up and they were on the frames and the frames were warm. Then I put the queen in.
What made you relocate to Georgia?
Well, as hobbies go, sometimes they get a hold of you and they change the direction of your life. I was pollinating, I was running 4,000 colonies in Michigan, from Michigan to Georgia. I needed a heap of packages in the spring because I pollinated my bees to death. I had a choice between, I was a single father with 4 kids at home. I had to make a living or keep bees. and I chose the living, so I pollinated 5 times a year. Kept me busy, but it kills the bees. You know, they get everything you don't want them to get. So when I'd get to Georgia, I would have to order from 3 different companies to get the bees I needed in the time I needed, you know, providing the weather, you know, permitted them. The original company, Spell Bee, that I bought out, he offered me the business 5 years in a row. The price finally became the right price, no interest, $15,000 more a year than what I was paying for packages, and I could have my bees when I wanted them. It didn't work that way. So we bought out another company so I could get the bees when I wanted them. That didn't work. I bought out another one. I sold my pollination company, and we've just been there ever since. It just flowed all into itself, and this is a lot harder than pollination, so I like it more. It's challenging. I mean, every year I learn something new. The bees would teach me something that I didn't know. But it was out of necessity that I got down there. And I don't like to do too many things. I like to do one thing good. So. Ma'am?
You had mentioned that you bring in the syrup to feed the bees. What kind of syrup do you use? Is it cane sugar or is it high fructose corn syrup?
We use high fructose corn syrup for 2 reasons. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you see any difference if you were feeding corn syrup or cane sugar?
No. And I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people don't like the high fructose corn syrup. They want fondant and they want this and they want that. And we've tried it all. Price isn't really an obstacle when it comes to the health of the bees, but high fructose corn syrup by itself is not a very good, it doesn't have very good food value to it. We add a ton of stuff to it. We add pollen substitute, we add vitamins, minerals, we add electrolytes. We got a new chemical we're putting in there, but it helps with the digestive system of the bees. So when we feed them high fructose corn syrup, that's the base that we start with. We go through, I couldn't tell you how many packs of medicines and antibiotics and food supplements and stuff that we put in with it, you know, to help the bees. So.
Do you also feed pollen supplements?
Yeah, we feed pollen substitute in a liquid form, though.
Oh, okay.
We put it all in as, again, time is money, and we have a certain amount of time to do it. So we mix it up in the syrup, and when we feed, we have it all there as a one.
And how do you feed? I think I saw it.
There's division board feeders. We make our own. Some of the hives that we buy, there was one of them that we had bought out of California. We had been buying colonies out of California from a friend, and he used plastic feeders, pretty much bee killers. But yeah, we use division board feeders, 1 gallon plus whatever they hold. Is there any other questions?
What levels of small hive do you deal with? You're down south, you have warmer weather, maybe some moisture weather, more moist weather. What percentage, not percentages, but do you have a problem with small hive beetles, and how do you deal with them?
Small hive beetles are not that big of a problem. They are in our sandier areas. You know, they tend to, they pupate in the ground. They tend to be more apt to be in our sandy yards than our clay yards. But we put a chemical in there. We put braid, ant, and roach attractant in CD discs. We bust out the corners and only the beetle can get in. And it's got an attractant in there for the roaches, but the beetles tend to like it too. So if we find beetles, we treat them accordingly, but we haven't had a real problem with beetles in the last 2 or 3 years. And again, we supply those for free. We don't charge you for them. But we don't, no, we don't have that big of a problem with them in the south. I think it's because we're in them all the time. Shaded areas are more apt to have them than the sunny areas. But they tend to be in the queen boxes more, because a queen box is under stress all the time where a full colony isn't, and they prey on stress. But if the bees are hygienic enough that they corral them and they'll glue them in behind the feeders in the queen boxes, and so they're not that bad of a deal. But when the queens are gone, something happens, a wax moth gets in there, and then they'll take it over once it gets weakened.